What's up everyone? How's it going? It's great to have y'all back here again. I have recently came back from a 2.5 week trip traveling Japan and chasing cherry blossoms in a couple different familiar places, as well as just places that I haven't been to before, like Nagoya as well as Fuji. So those two places added on to like where I've been to before. It has been a great experience, and by all means everything aligned up and the weather was absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, with some minor setbacks with some rain in between, but overall like it was a really great experience, just not only solo traveling that country, even though it was my third time, but just having things line up as I projected them to be, because obviously there's things that are out of your control. Now in this video, it's just going to be a little bit of a follow-up compared to what I've had in last week's video, where I talked a little bit briefly about like how Japan went and also just talking about familiar places. But more importantly, what I want to get with this video is not only how the trip came to be, but also like why I was ultimately there, and just some things I want to impart with you on, because by all means like the road to where I got is not linear whatsoever. I had to take like a bunch of twists and turns, and I kind of reflect on my time just being in Japan and just seeing how far not only where I stand professionally, but as a person too, and in pursuit of my craft, and with YouTube being thrown in the mix as well. So I feel like a really good place to start when it comes to just talking about this little story and just like, you know, some things I want to impart with you guys on in this video is just talking about like where I came from and just like how that series of events progressed to, you know, pursuing more of my craft in detail and ultimately going to some place that has been like a lifelong goal of mine and turning my dreams into reality. And then at the end of the video, just going to share with you just a little bit more updates about like what the channel is looking forward to, because I have some really exciting news to share at the end of it as well for spring and summer updates. But yeah, with that in mind, I feel like a good place to start is just with my professional and working background. And part of it is outside of college and just transitioning from a post-grad to now a working adult, I pursued a field of sales development representative, or a SDR for short, and part of that entails like a lot of cold calling and cold emailing. And I chose to go through that route because a lot of my character as a person I just want to go ahead and build upon, particularly be more outspoken, just develop also a sense of business, as well as develop interpersonal relationship skills that I can use not only in the professional setting but in a personal setting too, because you learn how to develop thick skin, as well as just be more of a public speaker in that regard too, and just a more detailed oriented and like organized person in general. So luckily, I was able to find a opportunity as a SDR in a tech company where we had a lot of leeway to build the ship that as we were sailing it, more so create structure and just be more experimental. And as fun as it was, just, you know, being that SDR and developing my professionalism in that sense. I also had some time to work on photography, but more as like a hobby in a way, and not really think of it as a profession, even though that was just like a dream and, you know, something that I could look into more like at a later time as I develop myself as a person. Now fast forward about like 8.5 to like 9 months in that first SDR role, things didn't work out as planned out, and the company ultimately had to think of ways to reshape itself, but that also meant having to let go of people so that way they have more of an opportunity to think ahead in the future. And my department, as well as myself, have ultimately been let go, and now we were forced to find different opportunities for ourselves. But that wasn't without its benefits too, because I learned not only a lot about my person, but just like how the business as well as just the industry works in general. I say that because when working in tech, a lot of things can twist and turn and change in the blink of an eye, and so that taught me a really valuable lesson, that as you just get into the industry and be in a lucrative field, whether it be like both sales as well as tech and the cross between those two, once things start to, you know, go sideways or just not as planned out, you have to really learn how to adapt and pivot quickly. And in that interim between transitioning out of my first sales role and finding my second sales opportunity, I was spending more of my time just taking the time to like travel a little bit, as well as dive a little bit more and build up my skills when it comes to photography, as well as becoming an editor in that space too. But really still focused on keeping photography as a hobby and just maintaining my skill level and just elevating myself And at the same time, like, I connected with a longtime friend of mine, Ozzy, and just we decided to do more like individual shoots and just practice shoots with like models as well. So that was really fun, while at the same time trying to figure out ways of like, if we want to do this, how do we make this more of a reality and like a full-time thing. But I needed more stability at the time and just securing finances, so I was able to find my second sales opportunity at another tech company, and this one speaks a lot of volumes to me because it was a travel tech company. So as someone who loves to travel and just be creative too, I just felt like this was part of like my calling, as well as like a way that I can find myself a new home, because I was definitely that kid growing up and fortunate enough to where I could travel with my family both domestically and internationally as well, traveling all around California, the States, and even making trips to the Philippines too. Now, fast forward 3 months and just learning how the business operated, and seeing how much of a stark contrast it is to have a mature sales organization, and just seeing how things operate differently when you have a lot of tools and systems in place compared to when you're building the ship as you're sailing it. I've come to find that there was a lot more expectation set on the SDRs, as well as just like the individuals too, and ultimately just trying to find my footing and navigating in that 3 month span of just being with my second company. Ultimately, expectations weren't aligned and that objectives weren't completed, and part of that it led to me ultimately being let go of, which at first I felt like there was a wave of sadness and disappointment, but I've come to realize, just taking a step back away from things, that I felt a sense of more relief and just relaxation after ultimately being let go, because it taught me a lot of things within that short amount of time. Part of it being that, if you don't like something, why continue to do it? It's not sustainable and really not healthy, because being in that second sales role with a lot more expectation did attribute to more stress in my life, as well as more time dedicated to really work, instead of finding this healthy balance where now I can carve out time for both travel as well as getting back into photography. I feel like that saying goes that you don't realize the value of something until you lose it. And photography to me was something that I really had to take a step back from, because during that time, because I just felt like work was just really a dominant portion of my life, and ultimately things just didn't pan out as they hoped for in that work setting. But that's totally okay, because now when I looked ahead to finding into my next opportunity, into another kind of like sales role or like tech role too, I come to realize what it is that I don't like doing and what I like doing. And so now that I have matured more as a person, both as a professional as well as just a person too, I come to take my time and just appreciate what the process is in figuring out what my next move is. And fast forward between finding my next role from my past role, I got a certification to become a customer success manager, or a CSM for short, and I come to find that I really like that role too, or I really like that role more, because I feel like I can have a more long-term and nurturing customer relationship, and just being able to support people, as a trusted consultant, whereas although sales had that kind of space to allow you to be that advisor and consultant, it was much more in a way short term, because now it's on to like the next opportunity. And being a CSM and working with business professionals in the spa salon industry, it opened up my eyes to a lot of different opportunities and possibilities, but just really people that were just so totally awesome, because here I am working with someone who decided to just leave their day job and construct something for themselves to feel satisfaction and fulfillment, and being able to help others through what service or product that they can provide. And I thought that was absolutely incredible, because now their work is really their livelihood. And in getting closer with that kind of persona and just that type of person, come to find that there are some traits and attributes that I could take away and just learn, and how do I apply it in a more practical sense for myself, and trying to figure out ways how not only can I keep photography a part of my life and carve out time for that, but potentially make the space and opportunity for that to grow into something bigger than it just being a passion or a side hustle or a hobby. Now, fast forward to 9 months later down the line, particularly it was December 2022. that I took some time away from work and decided that I want to go ahead and go on a trip with my family to explore Northern California. And it was during that trip where, even though I was doing photography on the weekends and on the side and here and there with my friends, it was during that trip up to Northern California that I find more time to just focus on what I love doing and reconnect and reestablish my really love for photography and just like zero in on it. By the end of that like basically week-long trip away from work, I've come to commit to myself and make the conviction that I want to make this more of a prominent factor in my life. And so as I got back into the workplace and really decided to commit for myself that to be more in tune with photography, part of that involved having to change up my lifestyle and to have that conversation with both my manager as well as my mother at the time. If I didn't have that conversation, chances are I wouldn't be here right now talking to you guys about this story and through YouTube and connecting with not only you guys through YouTube but in different social media channels too. But I will say that after I got over those two initial hurdles of just having those difficult conversations with both my manager as well as my mother, there's a couple things that were imparted on me that just gave me more confidence to make that shift. Part of that was when my mother asked me are you happy with what you're currently doing and working in the company that you're at? I felt like I should have answered her more outright, but me being the person I am, I just decided to let my actions do the talking, because prior to having that conversation with her, I already talked to my manager about it and let her know that, hey, like, this is something I also want to do for myself, and to do that I need to step away from this work capacity. And funny enough, that conversation ended up a lot better than I thought it would be, because we ended up talking a little bit more about like things that we happened that, you know, we ambitions that we had in our early 20s and what we're looking forward to later down the line as we matured and got older. And to have that heartfelt conversation and support, it just meant a lot for me. So shout out to my last manager in tech before I transitioned into the outdoor retail space. Come February 2023, I have made that transition into the outdoor retail industry from the tech sector, and since then I have not looked back to working back in tech. I was able to work not only with more outdoor industry professionals, but really connect with different kinds of communities and do a lot more things for myself. I was more ingrained and in tune with the outdoors, doing things like cycling, mountain biking, snow sports, the whole 9 yards. And to be in this space where not only am I able to call this kind of industry my home, but at the same time create friends along the way and share memories, I feel like that has also attributed to a healthier lifestyle, but also a lifestyle where it allowed me to invest more of my time into my craft, developing my camera skills, photography, editing, and now take on more video, which I'm really happy looking into my past couple years in this industry. Now I have made a YouTube for myself, and by all means, like, that's another way for me to connect with you guys and also just develop my videography skills. And this is where it's a turning point in my life, where now all the skills, experience, and all the time invested in just learning more about the outdoor industry, investing it more into photography, I was able to take that culmination of knowledge and skill and apply it to more of my travels. And as I became more of a solo traveler and be more confident in my independence, I felt like Japan Cherry Blossoms was just a really perfect opportunity for me to just understand not only more of myself, but be able to bring a story to you guys that really the only thing stopping you from achieving what it is that you want to do is really yourself. And I felt that, like, if I didn't pursue what it is that I wanted to do and just continue to stay with where I am currently at and just try to be stoic and stick within tech, then I wouldn't be talking to you guys through this camera right now and just being able to connect with you and share my story about it. I can definitely tell you that things didn't pan out as I thought they would. I felt like if I shared this recording with Adrian back when he was in his early 20s, he wouldn't believe that the much older and mature Adrian is doing what I am doing right now. Here I am thinking like, where here I was back in my early 20s thinking that I'm gonna have things much more figured out, established, and I would be more in a senior role in a very prominent company where it's like now I can just make some really big moves for myself. But to think that here I am, approaching 30, in my late 20s, creating YouTube videos, experiencing more of the outdoors, and being a solo traveler. I just didn't expect that to be a big part of my life, and I'm really glad that things have panned out for what it is and how they came to be. Solo traveling to me feels like a dream that's too good to be true. Especially more so this time around when I was chasing cherry blossoms throughout Japan, to come to different places where the sakura were just laid out in front of me, as beautiful as they are. I had to take a step back from what it is that I'm doing in the moment, close my eyes and pinch myself, and when I see the world for what it is, still there, is only then can I come to accept and realize that I am existing in the place that I feel like I could only experience through a screen or through stories that have been shared with me through different people. Chances are, if I continued to stay within the tech sector, I wouldn't have the opportunity to explore the world to the capacity that I do now. I wouldn't be able to enjoy and experience what it's like to walk under the cherry blossoms on a beautiful bright blue sky day. Chances are I wouldn't be able to enjoy and see Fuji for what it is, and towering over the landscape with its all-powerful presence. And chances are I wouldn't know what the simple joy it's like of just coming back to my hotel room after a long day of exploring the city, just seeing a stunning light show performed by a Ferris wheel right outside of my hotel window. Although there were many ways to get to where I am, and my path was definitely not a linear one, and I had to come across some hurdles, face and address them, learn how to adapt, and experience some setbacks along the way, I will say that I am very satisfied and happy with how my life has progressed. I don't think that my life is a perfect one, and at the same time, like, there were definitely situations where, like, hey, like, it just didn't pan out. But that's totally fine. We're here, we're present in the moment, and what's important is just looking ahead and seeing what the future holds. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds in these next coming months in particular. I'm very excited to share that I'm staying here in the States for just a little bit longer before I plan out my next international trip. But in between that time, between me and heading out to my next big grand adventure somewhere out there in the world to share with you guys, I will be camping out mainly here in California, but particularly taking you guys with me along the way too, because I want to show you some of the really cool and nice things that we have out here in California, because we have some really nice things here. So what you can expect from this channel later down the line is that I will have some vlogs particularly dedicated to some of my experiences within the redwoods, as well as places along the coast in Northern California. And what you can expect with those trips is that me talking as an outdoor industry professional, sharing with you my expertise and experience about like how to be prepared for this kind of trip, so that way if you want to be in the outdoors, you want to go camping, you're much more better prepared to go ahead and address that instead of trying to figure out things and relying on ChatGPT or some AI, because you know what they don't do? ChatGPT and AI, they don't go outdoors unlike real people. So if you want to connect with a real person and learn what their experience is like, come and connect with me. Go ahead and drop a subscribe as well as a follow, because that will definitely help out the channel. And also let me know where you want to go during the summertime too, or what it is that kind of advice that you'd want to see when it comes to how to prepare for the outdoors. I'm happy to answer any questions and provide like my own 2 cents about it as well. So with all that in mind, hope you guys enjoy a little bit more of that story. You're definitely going to see a little bit more postings about Japan and just some other videos dedicated to composition, as well as some other cool videos here and there relating to cherry blossoms. So with that in mind, hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, my friends, travel often, stay safe out there, and make something that matters. So on that note, peace out.